Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire.
Oh, you're trying to bring me down and run me out of town. You're taking what you want, but you can't take my rhythm now. I'm walking to my own beat, just gonna be me. I'm not replicating nobody. You wanna be like me, but you can't.
Lead leaders, because we don't always lead leaders. A lot of times we lead followers. And there's a difference, according to Dr. John Maxwell, who is one of the number one leadership people in the world. What he said was, my goal is to raise up 1 million leaders worldwide. And I think now he's raised up tens of millions of leaders. So this particular one for student ministry, for all ministry, or even just leadership in general, needs to be taken to heart and to consideration. But in student ministry, realizing that what happens in students' hearts and minds in adolescence and middle school and high school in particularly, and sometimes that changing in college, still being adolescents till they're 22 or 25 years of age, whether people think so or not. It's a physiological thing, not just a mature thing, maturity. People think intelligence is maturity. It's not. People think maturity is intelligence. It's not. It's intelligence is one thing. Maturity, all the brainwaves connecting, is another thing. So I thought this was really interesting. So I'll give credit to everything's credit to John. He made the list. He bases it all on 2 Timothy 2:2, which is, "And the things that you have heard from me among many witnesses, commit these to faithful men," and I'll say faithful men and women, faithful teenagers who will be able to teach others also. So this goes for whether it's the teenagers, whether it's your volunteers, whether it's other student pastors or whatever pastors they are, or dads, moms, everyone. So what's the difference? Okay, leaders who lead followers, they love to be needed. That's number one. Number two, focus on the weaknesses of people. That's what they do. The third thing is they devote attention to the bottom 20% of priorities. They have good influence. They lift up themselves. And number six, spend time with people. Number five, they lift up themselves. That's something we have to watch out for, because if we're only concerned about our image, it's not taking us where we need to go. 7 is ask for little commitment. And that's what we talk about. It's a lie to tell people, it won't take much time to deal with students. It's not going to be. There's a song called Unsung Heroes that is a Christian book, and that we had a host of books we had to buy for leadership training when I went through Youth for Christ, my first intern year, my first year. One of those books was Unsung Heroes. And the one thing here it says, people who lead followers ask for very little commitment. And one thing that book said is you will get the type of volunteers you need, but you have to tell them just how hard it is. And you even have to tell them that it's even going to be harder than it's going to be. Then you will get the type of leaders that you need. Immediate needs clearly, and 10, you impact this generation. Forgot 8 there. 8, lead everyone the same way. So let's go back to leaders who lead leaders, though. Here's what they do differently. Number 1, they want to be succeeded. They want somebody to take their place when they're done. Number 2, they focus on the strengths of people, not people's weaknesses, strengths of people. And one thing that Maxwell says in some of his teachings over the years, I don't have the order of everything. There's 21 Laws of Leadership. There's all kinds of books, and he's got new books now, and I suggest you listen to all of them. Is he the only guy out there? No, he's not. In fact, you should have multiple leaders. He says this too. If you're only being mentored by one person, you're not only going to get their good things, but you're also going to get their flaws. He would say have 5 or 10 mentors so that you're only getting the best of each one of those people. So number 2, what was that? Focus on the strengths of people, the strengths. And he says, You were hired usually for your strengths, not your weaknesses. I was chaplain for a baseball team, and I told them this. I said, your coaches may not agree with this. I said, but they hired you because if you're a pitcher, you're a great pitcher. They didn't hire you because you're a great hitter. Maybe that was part of the package. But if you've got weaknesses, you need to minor in your weaknesses and spend a little time on correcting those things. But you need to even spend more time on the things that are already your strengths because you were obtained because of your strengths. The same with people. Use those people. There's a guy who, Wayne Carter, he is in heaven now as of a few weeks ago. He changed 2 cities. And when he was on our boards, I had no idea the talent this guy had. I saw him one day, months ago. I said, Wayne, I just want to apologize to you. I just did not understand the depth of your abilities and who you were. I would have used you in so many ways. And he said, it's okay. He's such a kind guy. But he changed cities. Wow. Don't you want that guy on your team? Of course you do. That woman who's like that. Focus on the strengths of people. Number 3, devote attention to the top 20% priorities. Others, that are leading followers, they look for the lowest common denominator and they help those people. Well, it sounds kind of selfish. You know what Jesus would do? Yes and no. He would find people that were put down in life, but he would find people who had great attributes that just nobody else was recognizing. Great strengths that even they didn't recognize, but he already saw it. So focus on the strengths of people. 3, devote attention to the top 20% of priorities. You want to go to the top level of who people are and what the needs are and what will carry you into the future. The rest of it will take care of itself. You will find yourself taking care of those other needs and all the others. But the whole 20-80% rule is true. 20% of the people get 100% of the things done, and 80% of the people get nothing done. That's my just translation of it. It's a little more detailed than that. But there's this 20-80 rule that always goes on in almost everything. And 20% of the priorities, the top 20%, the things that need to get done, people who get a lot done focus on those things first, and those things that rob you of time and rob you of achieving, they put those things last. They get to them after each day they've done that top 20% of priorities. That's what leaders who lead leaders do. Number 4, have great influence. Be in the community, be in your church, be in your family. Make sure that all the top priorities, God first, family second, others third, in that order, and then you've got other things that you can list. Have great influence, though, in those people. I was listening to a comedian, and he's talking about his family and tonight and stuff, and just really hilarious, the things that he said about adolescence and his family and different things like that. But I was sitting in church today at the church we go to, and Brooks Braswell is our pastor, and he has, I think, 7 children. And about 6 of them or 5 of them were sitting right beside us in a row. They're in their new building as of about 12 weeks ago. And so it's about our 12th week in our new sanctuary and building. It's just amazing. And in a little place, just a very small town that this massive church is, God has raised him up, and he's a local kid. Amazing pastor's been there for many years now, and his wife and children, and he was just talking about family and the places they went and recently on vacation, and the kids were laughing and just engaged with their father as he was speaking as a pastor. That doesn't happen everywhere. Every pastor cannot talk favorably about their kids or about funny moments with their kids and touching moments without their families being upset. That means you've got a great relationship with your family. Have great influence, not only on everybody else, but especially on your family. Number 5, lift up others. Make sure you put everybody else, why did you succeed here? Well, it was my team. It was these people. and lift them up. Don't pat yourself on the back or let others pat yourself on the back, especially in public, but in public and in private. Make sure that you love on your family, your staff, your friends, and those top 20% priority people that need to know just how valuable they are, that are going to carry everything that is you and is God in you to the future. 6, invest time with people. We talked about that in one of the episodes, just all the places I had to be and that I would show up at. Brooks said at one time in his sermon, he said, I don't remember anything that Doug said to us. I just remember he was always there. Everywhere we were, he showed up. And that was taught to me. That was taught by men who saw the future and women that saw the future. An organization called Youth for Christ, Campus Life, other organizations teach that. And I've worked with Fellowship Christian Athletes and Crew and Young Life, and the list goes on of different organizations I've worked with. And as a volunteer, invest time with people. And we talked about what it was, what we asked for very little commitment when we're just leading followers. But here Maxwell writes, ask for much commitment. Number 7, ask for much commitment, which is what we did. The more commitment you demand, the more that the people who will not commit and do what they need to do will fall away from you, or they decide not to go with your ministry. And the more people who are absolutely people who are driven and committed people will show up. When I first started this podcast, I sent 70 texts out because I was taught to by one of the greatest podcasters of all time called John Lee Dumas. He put out 2,000 episodes in a row. That's unheard of. It's crazy. He was told not to do it, that nobody could do it. And after 2000, he decided he would spread them out more, but he did it for a strategic reason. And he just blew up the market and impressed and inspired many people like myself. He asked for much commitment out of himself, out of others. One thing that he said was write, get a full list of people, email it out or text it out immediately and ask them to be on your show, and do things in a big way, and make sure that you set a date and you target it and you send. And he said the first time he sent and first time he launched, it took him months and months and months before he would. He kept postponing. And finally, the person who was mentoring him said, and he hired her, he's paying her. She's a mentor that he paid. She said that you need to launch. You need to pull the trigger. If you don't do this and you decide to stop it again, and you don't launch and pull the trigger this next time, this deadline, I'm going to fire you as my client. And he said, I needed this lady. There's no way I was going to do that. So next time I made sure I did it. Found out that I probably lost $250,000 that I could have had I launched the first time that she told me to launch. But he went on to be great and make a lot of money and help a lot of people, and on it goes. So that's a business podcast. So I wrote 70 people, and here's what happened. The busiest people, I'm talking lawyers and coaches and college sports directors and politicians, principals and assistant superintendents of schools, and the people with the hardest jobs and the biggest schedules were the ones who said immediately yes to me. Isn't that something? The busier people are, they know how to manage their time. They know what's important and what's not. And those are the people out of the 70 I wrote that said yes first. Number 8, lead everyone differently. Your people are not alike. I love this. I didn't write this. I wish I had this ability to write all this stuff. This is directly from that Leadership Bible, the law of reproduction, leaders who lead followers versus leaders who lead leaders. This is John Maxwell, Dr. John Maxwell, Leadership Bible, and you'll find this in his other writings. So lead everyone differently. Make sure that you take time to know your people and spend time with them individually for a lunch or a breakfast. I'm finding that the people I want to get with, I've been missing them because we tried to do lunchtimes. We're all busy at lunch now. We don't have time. Our lunches are short. Our days are long. We skip lunches and all those things. So I'm not a morning person. I don't like mornings, but because of the priority of friends that I need to see and meet with, I started meeting them at breakfast. I don't do it every week because I'm not good in the mornings. It's not my best time. My best time is any time after morning, all through the night. But my priority was these people need breakfast. Need me to meet with them then. I have, and it's been an amazing time. Just met with Michael Helms for an hour and a half at lunch because he's the guy who got me into podcasting. Well, I did the same thing with a lot of my volunteer leaders. I was doing some of this right and didn't realize it because I knew I was on a mission. I knew the mission that I was on was much bigger than me, taught to me by people that were bigger world vision thinkers and producers. And the reason I was able to is because I was implementing what others had taught me. So lead everyone differently. Find out what their needs are, what their individual love languages are, different things like that. Number 9, see ultimate needs clearly. See ultimate needs clearly. What are the real needs? What's got to be taken care of, or things are just going to fall apart? Who needs help because they're going to change the world, or going to change their world, or going to change their school, or going to change their student ministry or their family. Number 10, impact the next generation, which student ministry, we're right in line there. That's what it is. I used to say to my volunteer staff, and I'd repeat it over and over, the students we are ministering to now, we treat them with respect and love because they're the guys that are going to write our paychecks in the future. They're the people that are going to be our doctors and our lawyers. They're going to be our senators. They're going to lead our world. They're going to be our pastors. And they're going to, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And my staff took that to heart. And I took that to heart too. And many of those things are true. If you go listen to this podcast, you're going to hear the voices of those doctors and politicians and lawyers and pastors and volunteers and families, guys who are dads and business owners and moms and world changers through their own children and teachers and the list goes on this podcast alone, just this podcast, and it's there to inspire you. Why am I doing this podcast? Because even when I'm gone, you can listen to this podcast. You can listen to the people I've interviewed. You can listen to the things that I've said, the things that I've learned that will help you, that encourage you to go, I'm on the right track. Remember, I had to have a guy, it was on my 6th year with Youth for Christ, that I had a leader that absolutely knew if I was doing the right thing or the wrong thing for the first time in-house with us that I could talk to on a daily basis, that was there for me. And Andy said, you're doing it right. Just keep doing it. That's all I needed. Kept me going for the next 35 years. And he was there many, many times over and over and over again. Impact the next generation. So I hope this has helped you. Left this with you because when I saw this, going through a devotional the other day in my Leadership Bible, and I don't always pick it up, don't always use it, but I just lit my fire and I thought, people need this. So those of you who are listening to Youth Worker on Fire, this is Doug Edwards, your host. I am thrilled that you're here. I'm amazed that you're listening. I hope this season of life is treating you well and that you are fired up and that you are enduring the race and that you're being a soldier of the cross, which 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter, is talking about all through there. And so keep leading leaders. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.